Alright friends, welcome back to the channel, and today I wanted to make a bit of a video on something that I've seen pretty frequently in our space. Now, working with people with nootropics, talking to people who have taken nootropics, reading people's experiences online with nootropics, using nearly every single nootropic myself, there's been a few realizations that I've come to with nootropics and with kind of the nootropic space. And while nootropics haven't really become mainstream yet, I think there's been some interesting things that I've seen with the pharmacology of nootropics and how to really make your nootropic, I guess you could say, cycles or stacks work better, and some things that make them work less efficiently, right? So again, this is all through my experience. This isn't really pulling from any sort of scientific data, so don't be expecting any studies or anything. But this is just some very obvious things that I've noticed. So in this video, I wanted to highlight a few key ways that I've noticed that people derail their nootropic stack in their progress and kind of becoming cognitively, kind of taking their cognition to the next level. Because if you're taking nootropics, that's probably your goal. Your goal is to become more fluent, more efficient in your work, get more done. You probably want to be more successful, make more money, and nootropics do allow you to do that, but there's oftentimes some barriers and some obstacles in nootropic protocol kind of design, and today I kind of wanted to touch on a few key things. So a lot of times, and this video is going to be more so focused on lifestyle with nootropics, okay? Because a lot of times people build nootropic stacks, and yes, you can get a nootropic stack really well dialed in, and you can get a nootropic stack that's perfect for you and that works really well for you. But a lot of times what I've noticed is that your lifestyle will overpower the nootropic stack. Now, what do I mean by this? I mean that if you have a lifestyle that is not conducive towards you being a happy person or a efficient person, your nootropic stack will effectively become useless, okay? And how do I know this? Well, I know this again through working with people and through myself, right? There have been times in my life where my lifestyle has been extremely suboptimal, and then I've noticed that, hey, it doesn't matter what nootropic I take, whether it's modafinil or aracetam or Nootropic or choline or whatever, it doesn't work nearly as well, okay? But then I noticed times in my life where, hey, that same nootropic stack works really, really efficiently. So in this video, again, guys, I want to kind of highlight some key ways that nootropic stacks can get derailed from our lifestyle. So the very first thing I'm going to talk about is who you put in your life. So one of the biggest kind of conversations in the biohacking space has been, or just really the self-help space, has been energy, right? All the mitochondrial stacks, everyone talks about energy and how energy is so great, and how if you stack SLUPP332 and MOTC and methylene blue, you're going to have tons and tons of energy. And this is true, but what I have noticed, and what a lot of people have noticed, but maybe they don't put two and two together, is that the people you surround yourself with, and I'm not trying to get all kind of hippie on you guys, can either add to your energy or can take away from your energy. And you probably have heard this already when people joke about their social battery, right? Some people, if you've noticed, they say, oh my goodness, I was with that person for an hour and it just totally drained me. It drained my social battery, right? I feel terrible after. Some people you hang out with and you feel after really good. You feel almost energized. You want to go out and you want to do things. The key here is that who you surround yourself with can either add to your energy or it can kill your energy. So who should you put yourself around and who should you avoid? Well, I think it's kind of obvious, but I'll go into it, right? So people you should avoid are people who are generally very negative, okay? People who are seemingly always having tons of issues. They're always super negative. They're always down about everything. They always have a negative outlook. Now, this is different than someone who is more so realistic. I think realistic people are important and blunt people are important to be around. But someone who is excessively negative is going to bring you down, and they're going to kill your energy and kill your productivity, okay? I've had this happen tons of times where when I'm around people who are negative and this is bad and this is bad and this isn't going to work and that's not going to work, it truly does bring you down and bring your productivity down. So number one, avoid negative people. And it sounds so obvious, but I see people time and time again putting themselves around highly negative people, and then it reflects in their work, right? They become less efficient, they become less motivated, they want to do less things. Why? Because the people who are around them are emitting this negative energy, which then reflects back on you. And it doesn't matter how upregulated your choline system is. If everyone around you is negative, you're going to be less motivated to do things because all you're getting the input of is negativity, right? So that's my very first thing, is to avoid negative people. The second thing that I think is very important when it comes to cognitive function and efficiency is to avoid people who are not driven. So People who are not driven are not always negative, but they can really bring you down because they're going to make you feel okay with not working as hard. And this can be problematic. Again, I want to differentiate, and this does not mean people, right, who might say, hey, take a day off, or hey, relax, you've worked super hard. No, this is different. This is people who have really no motivation, no direction in their life. And again, if this is someone you care about, maybe you need to sit down and have an honest conversation with them, but be very, very careful in allowing them too far into your life because they could bring you and lead you to becoming less motivated yourself, which is going to, again, kill your productivity and kill your efficiency no matter what nootropic stack you are on. So, no negative people and no people that are unmotivated. So who should you really put yourself around? Well, you should probably put yourself around the opposite of that, right? Put yourself around high-performing, high-successful people who are positive and have a positive outlook on life. Now, this does not mean that they're happy-go-lucky and they think, oh, everything is easy and it's going to happen just no problem. No, but this is people who are optimistic. These are the people who, if you tell them you have a new business idea, they might point out some flaws in the business, but they're not going to tell you that the business is going to fall flat on its face and totally fail and bomb. Okay? You need to put yourself around high-performing people and people that are doing better than you. I have noticed in the past year that when I've gone out of my way, put myself around people, and this has been my rule of thumb. If there's anyone that I've met on my page, and there's a few people I have who I know who are doing better than me, whether it be financially or in their business or in their knowledge, I always make the effort to sit down with them, have a dinner, develop a relationship with them, because when you gain more insight into those people and what they're doing, it motivates you, it teaches you, you learn things, right? And then you take that energy you get from them, that positive energy in what you're learning, and you can apply that essentially to your life. And this will, again, make your nootropic stacks work much more efficiently, guys. So for the first part of this video, I want to make it very clear, okay? If you're someone and you're taking a nootropic stack, but you surround yourself with terrible people all day, stop taking the nootropic stack, put yourself around better people, people who are high performing, people who make you feel like you're not doing enough, you're not working hard enough, and then start taking that nootropic stack again, and you will notice that the nootropic stack actually works much better because it's synergistic with your lifestyle and it's synergistic with who you are surrounding yourself with. So very important, be very careful on who you surround yourself with because it can derail your nootropic protocol. The second thing, guys, we're going to talk about in this video that can derail your nootropic protocol is not giving yourself time to rest and relax. So when it comes to nootropics, right, a lot of people who are attracted to nootropics are people who want to be go, 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 right? They want to be going 24/7. They want to work 15-hour days. They never want to take a day off. They're of that mindset of don't sleep, don't do anything, work, 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 build, build, build. And this is a fantastic mindset to have. I just mentioned in the first part of the video that you should put yourself around high-performing, high-successful people. But the issue with this that you will run into is if you're someone and you have a nootropic stack, and your nootropic stack is purely designed to just be go, 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 and you're not periodizing your nootropic stack, meaning that maybe 2 days a week you have high stimulant days, and maybe the other days you have lower stimulant days, or maybe 1 day or 2 days a week you take off from stimulants completely and you rest and you relax, or maybe 1 or 2 days you go out with your friends and you have some fun. Periodizing your nootropic stack will make it infinitely more effective, okay? You guys should not be ramming a high stim, highly powerful nootropic stack every single day of the week. Now, for myself, how I set it up personally is 1 to 2 days a week, I have what's called a high stim, high performance day, okay? These are days where, yes, I'm going to be working 10 to 12 to 15 hours of deep work in the day. I'm going to be working very hard that day. There's a lot of stimulants. There's a lot of nootropics. It's designed to be intense. But keep in mind, this is only once or twice per week at the absolute max. I never go past twice per week. In most weeks, it's only once per week, okay? That's once or twice per week. 3 to 4 days per week, I have a more mild nootropic stack, okay? Less stimulants, more things like alpha GPC, Nootropics, some more kind of natural nootropics that are a bit easier on the system, and I still work very hard, but on these days, I'm very strategic and I'm very careful to make sure that I'm not overdoing it, okay? Again, these are still very productive days, they're still highly productive, but I make sure that they're not as intensive as my other 2 days of the week, because if I was to have those 2 high stim days of the week every single day of the week, I would have a stimulant crash. I'd become addicted to, stimulants, and it would be problematic. Sooner or later, you will burn out. And that's kind of the key here is that, yeah, you might have 3 or 4 weeks of high intensity and highly productive work, but sooner or later, you will burn out, right? The other 1 to 2 days per week, usually 2 days per week, I make sure to dedicate. Usually, by the way, I work all 7 days a week, but on these 2 days, I usually will get up. I'll work from maybe 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then at night, I will put my emphasis and my focus on going out, having fun, putting my phone down, whether it's with family, friends, a girl, whoever it may be. I put my emphasis on these nights on just having fun and relaxing and letting loose a little bit, okay? It's very important that you guys go out, you have social adventures. It will build you as a person. And again, it'll give you that just kind of, day off. And on these days, again, I typically bring the nootropics down a little bit. I make them very mild. And maybe I'll use something more anxiolytic like a phenibut or a kratom or a psilocybin if I want to go have some fun at night. And again, I will focus purely on kind of the social side of things, having some fun, relaxing, and reaping the benefits of my week, right? And again, anyone I've talked to who's been highly successful has always talked about the importance of these nights of going out, having fun, being out till 5 in the morning with your friends, doing some dumb things, guys. These, in my opinion, are crucial in you kind of maintaining your sanity, especially if you're someone who works extremely hard. And guys, if you're smart about it and if you know how to properly schedule your time, you can work this into your week probably once or twice per week, and you will not lose any productivity. Again, on these days, I still work 6 to 8 hours as normal, but I just go out at night, and I really have not noticed any decrease in my productivity. I still get everything that I need to get done. Of course, if these days become more regular and you're doing this 5 times a week and you're going out every single day, it's going to be problematic, but that's if you do any of these things every single day. So periodizing your nootropic stack is very important. And then what I would also do is I also like to schedule usually a quarterly or maybe a twice per quarter vacation, right? 2 or 3 days, for me, Joshua Tree is close by here. That's a really good example location of a place where you can go and you can just disconnect from work and just relax. Set yourself up, text your clients, say, hey, I'll be gone for 2 days. They will be fine without you, I promise. Disconnect, relax, meditate, just focus on relaxing, which if you get super far into the entrepreneur space, it can be hard to relax. You need to actually focus on relaxing, but give yourself that time to relax. Take maybe don't do any stimulants, don't do any nootropics those days unless you're maybe taking something to stimulate relaxation. You can use your imagination for that. But it's essential that you periodize your nootropic stacks and that you don't just do the most powerful nootropic stack every single day. This will make those high stim days even more effective and hit even harder. And this is how I've kind of managed to be able to use stimulants in that manner without having any sort of downregulation or any sort of issue. So the second way that people I think can ruin their nootropic stack is by not periodizing it. The third way that I think people oftentimes ruin their nootropic stack is by not locking in their lifestyle. Now, I've said this a million times, but I'm going to say it 1,000,001 times now. Okay, if your sleep is not good, if you're not hydrated, if you don't have the proper electrolyte balance, if you're not eating good foods, if you're not properly managing stress, which I mentioned before in periodizing, if you don't have your lifestyle set up to be enjoyable, your nootropic stack is not going to work nearly as well. No amount of Noopept modafinil can, but short term, no amount of Noopept or racetams or choline or whatever can overcome poor sleep, poor diet, and things like that. When it comes to diet, I'm not really a stickler for a single diet, but I think what's important is to eat high quality foods, fruits, vegetables, meats, whatever you want to do, high quality whole foods, and don't be eating them in excess or don't be eating them in too little. Now, of course, I know a lot of people that follow me are bodybuilders, so if you're bulking or cutting, inevitably you have to do this. But the reality is that, if you're eating a bunch of food and you're cramming 8 to 10,000 calories per day, it's going to negatively impact your cognition. And if you're cutting super hard, it's going to negatively impact your cognition. But again, whole foods diet, get good sleep at night, track your sleep, make sure that, when you're sleeping, you track it and you get good sleep. Guys, I've gone through so many periods where I've tried to out nootropic bad sleep and it just doesn't work, okay? It works the opposite. The nootropics don't work, and then you have even more downregulation of certain neurotransmitters when you start to do it. So make sure your lifestyle is in line with, proper cognitive performance. Again, you're managing your stress, you're exercising, you're doing things like sauna, you're staying hydrated, you're eating a good diet. And this is oftentimes some of the hardest stuff to do for people because it's an all-day thing. It's so easy, especially when you're busy, to eat poor or to not sleep enough. But guys, these are the things that will make your nootropic stack work infinitely better when you're kind of doing it, okay? So I think this is a crucial component when it comes to your nootropic stack and making sure it works efficiently. My final tip for building a proper nootropic stack is do not become too caught up in preset stacks, okay? Just because your favorite influencer loves something, just because I say something works really well for me, does not mean it will work well for you, okay? Use trial and error. Go through, and even if you're not coached by me, when I build people nootropic stacks, I'll give you guys a little piece of like free game here. I go through and do a deep consult questionnaire with them, and I see, okay, where are they struggling? Are they a more anxious person? Do they need to be more stimulated? Maybe they have no anxiety, but they're just low energy. Maybe they're not motivated. Maybe they don't have any motivation or energy. And then from there, I go and I kind of attack based on that. So build yourself nootropic stacks that are specifically and strategically designed for you and yourself personally. It's so important that you do that. And I know I said this was the last one, but I'm going to add one more thing towards the end here, guys. Make sure your hormones and your blood work look good, okay? If you're someone who has low testosterone, or if your thyroid's out of whack, or if you're out of whack on anything, this again will overpower any nootropic stack you try to take. And I know this too because I've gone weeks before where I forgot to pin testosterone and I felt terrible, or I forgot to pin my HCG and HMG for neurosteroid supplementation, and my nootropic stack did not work nearly as well. So it's very critical, guys, that you make sure that your blood work and your hormones are all dialed in, they look really good, and they're at a spot that works well for you and your own cognitive performance so that you feel your best when you're using the nootropics. Again, I highly recommend, if you're someone who's on testosterone, pinning your testosterone more frequently, using HCG and using HMG for this, I think is super important and super crucial when it comes to properly kind of being locked in cognitively. So guys, those are some tips on how I think people can ruin their nootropic stack. And if you make those corrections, guys, your nootropics are going to work infinitely better for you. With that being said, guys, thank you for watching. Head over to biohackingu.com for members only content, which is $19.99 a month. We have courses, protocols, ebooks. We have everything over there. We also have a lot of great free stuff. We have, supplement sourcing. We have articles. Join the email list. You'll get weekly kind of emails from me going over everything. Tons of great stuff over there, guys. With that being said, make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. And until next time, I will see you guys later.